Do we really just like go hardcore on the CommCast? Fuck it. But let's call CommCast right now and see what their intro is.
Oh my god.
I can't wait to get an email. Not even an email. We don't deserve that much.
The cease and desist is coming.
I will not cease, but I will desist. Welcome to the Communist Podcast. The CommCast headquarters, if you will.
Where we make Marxism easy.
I'm Brandon.
I'm Lucas.
Let's talk about America.
I wasn't sure if we were starting for real, but let's just jump into this shit.
I suppose.
Where do we want to start?
Nevada.
Oh. Patrick's sweet little rock.
It's okay, buddy. Take your time. I'm glad that states were not like in a rush, like Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, to get the counts in. Because in the situation of like what you would consider like a hasty counting or like some situation where room for error was allowed, we would have to go into like there'd be more of a fight for a recount. So for Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Nevada, all to call it after like 3 or 4 days, I feel like was the safer option, just to avoid having to do a recount for the election.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like it definitely was a source of anxiety and stuff. But I mean, like, yeah, I think, yeah, the longer you take with it, the easier it is to, and the more transparent you are through every step of that, the easier it is to verify, have like faith in it, and. Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm sure we all kind of knew in the end that it would flip, but there was always that like that I mean I know how scared we all were that like one night, or like kind of down about it.
Yeah.
Like that first night when we
Yeah, I think for the first night most people were just like, it's called. Like it's hard to, because like Trump had pretty much everything, but then Wisconsin flipped and it was like, all right, we just need Nevada now. And then it just became a waiting game for Nevada.
Right, and yeah, like once Michigan kind of started showing more like tendencies and stuff, is when Trump kind of started going harder and calling fraud and shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like he's still kind of trying to like push that shit up to the Supreme Court, even though like
several not municipal, but like district courts have already been like, no, go get the fuck.
Yeah, I mean, he literally hasn't provided any evidence at any of these court hearings. Pretty much always just like, well, I heard this one dude say that they wouldn't let me in.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw not a chart, but like an infographic of like the presidential elections since 1980 and who won by like how many electoral votes and how much popular vote they won by.
Yeah.
And you have like Reagan, who won by like 85% popular vote and like 400 or 500 fucking electoral votes.
Oh yeah.
Then you go into like, who came after him? George H.W. No, that wasn't immediately after Reagan. I don't remember. But like as the years kept going, the gap between like the left and the right in popular vote just became like more and more incremental, to the point where now where like popular vote doesn't even determine anything anymore in the electoral vote.
Well, yeah, and I don't know if that even was necessarily a. Well, yeah, it's like the Electoral College has been the same the whole time. It's just that those were always, some of those were a lot more landslide victories for which kind of made it seem like it's more representative. But now, yeah, as it's getting closer, as we're getting closer elections, and like the past 7 out of the past 8 elections, the Democrats have won the popular vote. Even when the Republicans like actually win that year, 7 out of the 8 past elections, Democrats have won the popular vote, and like people are starting to see that like it's not a true like democracy. We still have a barrier in between us and actually representation in the state.
Yeah. I'm trying to like think like the justification for the electoral college as far as like giving every state a representative participation in the presidential election, and to what extent that even matters, because you have your swing states, and you have your Floridas, your Nevadas, Arizonas, where like presidents are going to go to. Like no president's going to go to North Dakota or South Dakota, which are like a Democrat is never going to rally in like North Dakota where you have 3 votes and it's like an 80% Republican voter base.
Yeah, who the fuck has ever had an Alaskan rally?
Hell yeah. But like it was interesting to see what a landslide the Republican Party had with Reagan, with their 80% popular vote to where we're at now. And it's like, what is it, a swing? Are we going to start seeing a swing towards like a more Democratic majority, almost to the point of Reagan, or like what caused that popular shift is what I'm curious of.
I don't know. I mean, I think also in the case with like Reagan and stuff, we had a lot more, like there was a lot more severe crisis in those times that you could like fall back on a nationalistic point. Your nation, even if it was self-inflicted, which a lot of those fucking things were. But I don't know, like if you look at the polling of the population, like the majority of the population is like pretty progressive or Democratic. Yeah. It's just that Republicans have a lot higher turnout for elections and stuff. And like that may be more of a recent how it was in the
I don't know. But before like, my day.
Yeah. But at least recently, like if the turnout for elections keeps rising as it like election and stuff like
150 million voters.
Yeah, like this is
like just
the highest,
for the major parties.
Yeah, this is the highest turnout for an election ever. And like if we can like keep that trend up and get more people voting, even if there is an electoral college in the way, I think we'll see more Democratic representation, hopefully.
I mean, either that or make Puerto Rico a state.
True. Yeah.
And it's guaranteed, like every year.
Right. We've been holding on to that one. Hanging Chad.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because I thought it was interesting to see like how that's something I want to research, like what parameters really cause that swing, and if it's like a cultural swing, if it has to do with levying laws that that prevented like minority voters, like prisoners, like felon, barring felons from voting, voter IDs, like removing all these restrictions. Did that create more opportunities for like lower class and minorities to vote?
Yeah, like voter suppression has been a pretty consistent tool of conservatives, and like it still heavily exists now. But as it like starts to get pulled back more, you see representation from those and like thus more progressive viewpoints being shown. And also like again, I think a lot of this probably has to do with like the nationalism view. A lot of people nowadays, like, because there's not some like immediate imminent threat to like the destruction of our country, there's some people who like have to create one, which is like the Trump cult. They have to like create this view of like, oh, it's socialist, it's Marxist, it's brown people that are destroying our fucking country.
Yeah, the only nationalism that's left is white nationalism.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, so as more and more people become disillusioned with the nationalist, like beyond that, there's not really much to be conservative for.
Yeah. That's just something I thought would be interesting to talk about for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, from there, like, I guess for post-election stuff, if we want to talk about like some of the executive orders that Biden wants to bring in, like once he's inaugurated.
I haven't really like seen any of them. I know that he's gonna like remove like half of the hundreds that Donald Trump made.
Yeah, the 5 big ones that he's talked about so far are I look them up again, but I know the big 2 ones are he's going to immediately re-enter the Paris Climate Accord, which is great. He's re-entering the WHO. He is repealing Trump's ban of transgender people in the military. The other ones, gotta look it up real quick. But I mean, like, even that so far, as like an immediate move, I think is great. Like, just to kind of, I don't know, put a damper on on the damage that's been done so far, and also just kind of show like a sign that hopefully that he has some of the right ideas moving forward, even though like we definitely have to be critical of him from this point on.
For sure.
And he is far from what I want to see from this country. But also, he's repealing the travel ban on Muslim countries.
I heard that one too.
And he is reinstating Dreamers, which is going to allow children of undocumented immigrants to stay in the U.S. So hopefully no more fucking cages or shit.
Yeah, we have to see what he's doing about the cages and how we got to get moving on that.
Yeah.
Because there's some super fucking Nazi shit going on in those camps.
Dude, yeah, no, like, I don't know how people get behind justifying, like, the fucking literal cages that are...
Right. And the forced hysterectomies of the people in the fuck... Anyways.
It's fucking absurd. Like, as much as, like, QAnoners want to fucking morally justify themselves as, like, trying to save the kids and shit, like, there's literally, like... There's literally fucking children in concentration camps right now on the border.
That are going missing.
Yeah, that are going missing. If you want to investigate some fucking child trafficking,
if you want, But on the note of executive orders, I think obviously Trump set a precedent with executive orders. So like, to what extent did he even need to? Because he had the Senate. He didn't have the House though, right?
No, but it's like it's not like McConnell would fucking turn.
Yeah, but he has been turning down the stimulus packages.
That's because it helps fucking poor people.
Yeah, but there was an argument to be made that the Republicans started losing faith in Trump around the end of the election anyways, realizing he wasn't going to get a re-election. So McConnell was like, I'm not going to start pushing shit because I don't like supporting, because if McConnell pushed a stimulus package, that would have increased like popularity for Trump, because everyone would be like, hell yeah, money. Right. But McConnell was like, I don't give a fuck anymore. Like, you're not the priority. We have to focus on our House, on our Senate, and make sure that like we can blockade Biden when he wins.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like the Republican Party has been kind of dropping Trump. I mean, we've seen like the Lincoln Project. I don't know, there's been some shit about like some weird misappropriation of funds and shit. But yeah, I mean, like, but yeah, there's Republicans who are trying to separate themselves from Trump and like try to re-solidify themselves as a moral thing, since I feel like, because Trump has really damaged the fucking image. Shit. Yeah. But yeah, like McConnell's still going to be a huge fucking issue with shit going forward
for us. Yeah, because we still have to determine what the Senate looks like with runoff elections and whatnot.
Yeah,
I didn't want to like stray too far from my point about executive orders, but
I got that.
I kind of went on a rabbit trail there. But like, I don't like with the President Trump set with executive orders. I see why Biden has to create more executive orders to counteract the ones that Trump made, and he might even have to try to circumvent a Republican Senate as much as possible. But I don't like the whole precedent that's being set of just the president saying, this is what's going to happen now and this is what's going to happen. It makes politics in the future put too much emphasis on the president. And I think that's going to be really bad for voter turnout in situations like our midterm elections in 2022, which we're going to need to secure Senate most likely. And I don't know.
I mean, like the fact that the Republicans have it as close as they do in the Senate and the House right now shows that either people voted for Biden and on everything else, or more likely they only voted for Biden and then just like skipped over all the senators
just
and
sent
shit.
in the ticket.
Because the Senate is seriously important. Yeah, without Congress, you can't really do anything outside of executive order.
Yeah, you were definitely not going to get a Medicare for all,
right?
If we don't have both houses.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, you see all of the people who stood up for Medicare for all, and like the stuff, they retained like their place in it. Like people want Medicare for all, but I don't know, like it gets wrapped up with a whole bunch of other shit that I feel like people just try to dismiss altogether.
Like the really sweeping changes that we want to see, like Medicare for all, like the other big push, defunding police. That's not obviously going to get done through executive order.
Yeah.
For especially like defunding police and creating more community programs. It's interesting to see how the budget's going to be played out, especially with if we don't get like a super majority even in Senate and House, because a budget change would have to require like a complete drop in military funding from the almost $1 trillion that we're spending a year on it to like half a trillion maybe. To really distribute the funds to give it to the states, to let the states decide what to do with their funding. It's just interesting to see.
yeah, like the I feel like police reform
hard to see with Harris in the vice presidency.
Yeah, like I don't know, the thing with police reform is like I think there might be like a slight chance of something, like not anything close to what we want to see being done, but there might be a possibility of some change in just the way that Biden has been presenting it optically, as like he doesn't want to he's dropped the like defund the police thing, and he's saying like, we want to give them more money, we just want to make sure that goes to like having people better qualified for different like types. He wants to like expand the police into like having like psychiatric shit like that. From what
Which
I've
is
seen,
still wrong, obviously, because that's still like funding a military force when you can just, because you have shitty, mind you, welfare programs like social services, like child protective services, Alcoholics Anonymous, things like these, which could be funded better. Could be better looked after if you just put the funding towards them. I don't see why you would need to create a psychiatric unit for a police force.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess in terms of like a short-term thing, like the changes we want to see happen are not going to happen during this presidency. This is just a step towards what we need to get to, and I think if the only step we can take with this presidency is making sure that, you know, if you're having some like basic dispute or some small time shit happens that isn't like a violent threat to the community, that you're not having some dude with fucking assault rifles like armed to the teeth show up.
You can dial 912.
Yeah, like you just having like the small step towards like we have someone who's better qualified to deal with these positions show up,
someone
to
who's
these
actually
situations.
trained to de-escalate.
yeah, and it's like obviously it's not the solution that we need, but anything we can do to move away from sending fucking armed thugs to random people's houses is, I think, a good. Yeah, I don't know. And I think, that's definitely an easier optical push, I think, than shit like moving away funding from the military into other stuff, because there's still a lot of conservatives who like like the army are our fucking heroes, the gods of our nation who like protect every yeah. That's a lot harder optical push for, even though the police lean heavily Republican. Like the military leans more Democratic, or at least the fucking general population.
Yeah. But when you're coming down to like the people making money,
well, right,
they're conservative leaning. That's
sure.
what really matters.
For sure. I mean, like the general population of the people who are getting fucking predatorialized into
reamed.
Yeah.
Creating an argument for reducing funds in the military shouldn't be too tricky. You can argue at least like $250 million of it, maybe not $250 million, but like 100 billion, not $250 billion, but like $100 billion towards like free, like reducing redundancy, because fighter jets have not been getting more advanced, but we're still dishing billions of dollars into research. But yeah, just like I feel like there's plenty of room to say like we're trimming the military budget. We're pulling troops out, like is one way to say we're cutting military, we're pulling troops out of the Middle East.
Yeah, it seems like the grand majority of people are not having a presence in the Middle East.
I mean, that was one of Trump's like major was isolation. We're gonna get out of these other nations. We're not gonna be funding them anymore. We're done with sending our money to other countries. We're gonna bring the boys home. Obviously, that was a fucking fool's errand.
Yeah.
That's why I'm concerned for this as a symbolic victory. It's because for two main reasons. Politicians are still politicians, and Biden's elect of Kamala Harris as the vice president was strictly a social move to say, oh yeah, I'm going to bring in our first black vice president, our first female vice president. Like that was the sole move of Biden, and how far is that symbolism just going to carry through his 4 years? Is he going to bring any actual change, or is it just going to be a bunch of flair?
Yeah, and I guess that comes back down to just I think it's okay to ride. Like I can't speak for what Biden's gonna do, but as a population, I think it's okay to like ride this out for now, feel good. Like once he's in office, we need to be doing it, and we need to show people that going further right was definitely not the right choice. And so now that we've kind of like brought it back to just some like lazy ass neutral position, like we need to try going the other.
Because the way I see it is our voter turnout that we got for this election was clearly because of an extremely divided nation, and both sides really wanted to see their side come out on top between the Trumpists and the left. And if Biden creates a government and like a general atmosphere of like appeasement to the left will say, the left will have a feeling of safety, and they won't feel the urge and the necessity to come out to vote for the midterms, or maybe even the next election cycle for the presidency. They might just say, "Oh, I've received my pets for I received my pets for LGBT, for gay rights, for this and that." I don't like. There's no way anyone's ever gonna vote in someone like Trump again, and they're gonna become more lax on the next voting cycle, and it's gonna really bite us in the ass.
You can't. Anyway, but we have to think about how we're gonna deal with the ongoing like pervasive Trump cultists and just the stubborn conservatives,
which I would say is one of the goals or missions of CommCast
Yeah. I mean, like,
to create another voice, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's not like what we're doing is original, but the more people you have out there saying anything, the greater chance you have of actually having a message that sticks.
Yeah, it's casting a wider net, and it's also showing viewers like, oh, there's an actual audience for this. It's not just a few fucking nut jobs like Hassan or Vosh that are just like out here spewing fucking crazy ass Marxist shit.
I mean, there's I think a useful place for that, but I think it's harder to radicalize people from that, especially from like Hassan point of view. It's like, if you see that from the outside, there's no way you're fucking joining that cult.
Yeah, like, Hassan is definitely not he's like a level like 50 fucking socialist.
Or like even definitely like not. People in his audience might be super attracted to like his personality and the way he presents himself, but like there's still a lot of people in his audience that pretty heavily like disagree with his actual like substance and shit. But,
he's not arguing to convert, to radicalize. Yeah, he's getting the ideas out there, whether or not like people want to invest in listening to the ideas. He's just an angry mouthpiece, which the internet loves.
He's megaphone in it.
Yeah, I was watching the Hakeem video. The first one I watched.
Yeah,
first Hakeem video I've ever seen. He was reacting to a Jubilee. Always good content.
Oh yeah.
And it was capitalist versus socialist, and he was explaining the video in a very educational way of how just in general how they were arguing, and how the way they were arguing was not conducive to radicalization, because they had the former presidential candidate of the American Socialist Party. He was one of the speakers for the Jubilee video, and Hakeem was saying how he's talking on such a high level of theory that the capitalist audience was not like digesting the information. They were almost insulted by the information that he was giving, because he wasn't trying to break it down to a level that they could understand. He was just speaking on like a higher ground, and pressing his information into his opponent, as opposed to stepping down and explaining. Because even like on the capitalist side, they were also saying things like, oh, I don't agree with how the government is spending their military budget and this and that. It was like, well, that's part of capitalism. But at this point, the capitalist audience just took that as like an insult, pretty much, and just didn't, like, they were not even interested in a conversation anymore, because of the way he was presenting himself in an arrogant style, which I think is what Hassan, for the most part, does. Vosh doesn't do it often. He does it when
he doesn't when he's debating literal Nazis.
Vosh takes his time to explain clearly to.
Yeah, well, that's like, I think I don't know, in a very general progression of things, like people might either like stumble onto Hassan or like find some like midpoint to get to their just some like
just a
more mild shit that might like start to bring them over, and then like someone like Hassan might kind of get you more energized about it and stuff like that. And I don't know, yeah, people like Hassan and Vosh, I think, kind of just solidify your position within those. It's like if you're starting to go that way already, then
they're higher rungs of the ladder.
Yeah, like Vosh will give you like the sources. It'll give you the fucking like documentation to like show you that you're right and shit.
And then you go to Hassan to worship Daddy.
yeah. Hassan's just a circle jerk, but it's fantastic. But yeah, I think it's important to have more like intermediate points there. Just kind of some chill fucking the warm embrace of Marxism.
You just We just have to constantly push people from the ground up, and that might be where we fall. Who knows where we go in the future? But
yeah, it's hard to tell first. But maybe we'll go nowhere.
Most likely.
Condemned to the abyss of the we've done pretty much everything I want to talk about, unless we want to maybe some like Hollywood corporatist shit.
I mean, I don't have much to say about it. John Doyle is a simp for Trump.
Oh man, such
a simp. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, his Twitter's been pretty entertaining recently.
I'm sure he's crying for daddy. But
yeah.
Oh god. But like, he only made like one argument that did not have evidence behind it in that entire video. So it's just like, I don't have an opinion on Hollywood. And
yeah, I guess my broad opinion on that is generally they're almost at the point of recognizing issues with shit. That like they understand that the few people we have in power on top is a bad thing. They just redirect that. They redirect that from a like discussion about capitalism in general to just an outsider thing.
It was such a wild fucking video. Like, I wonder where it came from. It came from Chris Pratt. The whole Chris Pratt canceling thing, because he goes to a fucking.
It's like so loosely based on
church.
that. Like the entire most of the video is just him talking about how like
Twitter beef.
Yeah, like Twitter beef, and how like the screen people promote degeneracy in our culture, and they want to fucking destroy Christian values or whatever.
I think he just simply doesn't understand how economics work. Like, if people didn't want to see those types of films, then those films would not succeed.
Yeah,
for one part.
Well, it's like, yeah, art reflects culture for the first thing, and yeah, like we live in capitalism. People go see what they want, but also like those corporate, like there is kind of not a monopoly, but like an oligarchy over entertainment. We have like 4 or 5 like companies that own virtually all of the entertainment in the country, and when they look at that, their problem isn't like, hey, there's an oligarchy for entertainment, should split that. Sure, there's more opportunity to rise in the industry, make sure there's no like there's more rights for people within the industry, make sure that people aren't getting taken advantage of and exploited through this. And instead, because that's a more complicated conversation to have.
Are you suggesting we open up the opportunity for a fucking union?
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
are you trying to unionize, boy?
Because that's antithetical to their fucking communist hating perspective. They have to redirect it into this like weird mystical thing of like, oh, it's the Jews, it's the brown people, they want to make our culture degenerative. Oh, it's not the corporate structure, it's the people sitting on top of it.
Yeah, like dumb. I mean, I like the strongest argument I would say John Doyle had in that video was that being an artistic industry and entertainment industry, producers are going to see how an actor or an actress is interpreted by a population, because if people don't want to see a certain actor or actress, that movie's going to get less views, less box office tickets.
Yeah.
But like that's such a temporary setback, as we've seen. Like, Kevin Hart wasn't canceled. I think he's one of the biggest cancel culture victims. And also Louis C.K. is back to doing stand-up.
Yeah, like, who the fuck has actually been canceled who hasn't either been arrested or willingly stepped down?
Right.
Like, Harvey Weinstein definitely got fucking canceled pretty hard, but he's also in jail for
fucking shit.
Yeah, he's gonna fucking rot in jail because of it.
He didn't make fucking gay jokes 12 years ago. Like,
yeah, like the only like
he straight up fucking like it took advantage of
yeah, your career is not going to be ended by a bunch of random people on Twitter getting pissed off. And even if it did, isn't that like the perfect idealism of free market? Like, you did something. The people who consume didn't like it, and they told you like don't do that. It's like what happened to the capitalism thing?
That's straight up neoliberalism.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's such a fucking stupid argument. Yeah.
We should probably post our reaction video before the podcast.
For sure.
Oh. So yeah, you can't trust politicians. Joe Biden isn't your friend. Kamala Harris definitely isn't your friend.
They're a friend until January 20th.
Yeah, until January 20th, where they are allowed to make policies, and then they really don't give a fuck about you anymore because you're not paying them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'll be I think this will be a lot more interesting if we have guests on, and I think we can.
We definitely need a better setup if that's.
Yeah, I mean, we can figure that out, but I mean, we definitely got people we can bring on.
Oh, yeah, I made all my points. I just want to recap with if this video ever gets any views in the next couple of years.
True.
That this victory is purely symbolic. It might be. We'll see with Senate and how the Senate turns out. And how the House turns out. It won't be fruitful,
but we'll get the seeds.
We'll get the seeds in.
The seeds will be.
We just have to water the seeds every 2 years. Don't forget to vote local.
For sure.
Biden's not your. Yeah. Kamala hates you if you do drugs. Tune in next time where we talk about we don't have anything set up for next.